So that's our topic. That will be our topic for today. So I see there's still like around 70 people unassigned. So let's give them a minute to join. In the meantime, if you wanna, unmute yourself and tell us where you're joining from, so we can start breaking the ice. Maybe I can go first, since I feel like I'm the one talking. So my name is Esra, and I'm originally Turkish, but I'm participating from New York, USA.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yvonne O'Neill. I am speaking to you today I'm joining with you today from Grenada in the Caribbean, but I live in New York and I represent Africa Development Interchange Network. Hi, Beth. Hi, Asha.
Hi, wonderful.
Greetings, everyone. Beth Blissman, Cleveland, Ohio. Currently, I'm with the Loretto community, and I hope to be in New York by the end of the month. And I don't know if others are getting this, but I'm getting a message that breakout rooms will close in 32 seconds.
I hope not. We need the room in the next 50 minutes. So I'm hoping that they would keep this room.
So if I disappear, hopefully we'll all be back together.
Yes, apologies. Esther, sorry, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
No, please go ahead, Asha. Do you want to tell us like where you are?
Sure. I know it's going to close. Sorry, if we get locked up, please join right back in. And apologies for the technical
rooms. Close all rooms.
I can't see it on my screen. So
I cannot get in
Welcome back, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Long time no see.
You know, I am really grateful no matter what happens with technology. Sometimes there are glitches, but at least we're all able to come together, and that's the most important. So that being said, I'm going to be your breakout room moderator and our chat, I should say, your chat moderator assistant. My name is Sarah Eubanks. I'm the youth representative for New Future Foundation to the United Nations, and I'm also a youth representative on the steering committee for the Department of Global Communications, Civil Societies. It's wonderful to see you all, and I believe that if there are any other issues, it looks like we might close again. If that happens, just remember to join getting started soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Cairo. And apologies, I know I got interrupted, but I just wanted to, that technical fix. And I think again, it's saying it may close in 5 seconds. So the same situation, we apologize. Please join right back.
with anniversary.
Is there an issue with breakout room? It keep on closing.
Yeah, somehow how we keep going back to the main.
Guys, so just hold on. We all have the co-chair thing. So
back
guys, if you can just hold it a second, somebody I think may have closed it. So
something I'm going to send you an email, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
The link is the chat box.
Yeah, so guys, can you just listen for a minute? Just hold it a second and let's try to rectify it. Just oh my God, somebody just opened them again. Please don't touch the different buttons, or else we might have to sort of remove the co-chair from everybody until we get into the rooms. Just hold on a second.
If they're open now, we can all join. If you just hover over the title of the one you're interested in, where the number is.
I didn't open it, that's what I'm saying. Somebody opened it before I did. So, okay, let's try this again, and it should close in 55 minutes.
It should now say join.
Yeah, so some people have joined already from what I can see. Why don't we try this again?
Now it's work. It's breakout rooms.
If I'm still here, then I'm not in the breakout room.
Margo, 1 second. How can you give me co-host?
Yes.
So in the meantime, if you guys would like to turn on your cameras, no pressure, absolutely no pressure. If you like to keep it off, that's totally fine. But of course, this is a meeting that, you know, like we want to interact with, and we want to make it like as interactive as possible. So it would be great to see your faces, but absolutely no pressure. Maybe, yeah, it's almost there. But at the same time, I don't want to, you know, like keep everyone waiting. If it's okay for you, if you can nod just to give me a signal that should be kick off. How do you feel about that? Okay, I see some heads shaking. So hi everyone, and nice to see you all, and thanks so much for participating. Today's session is about climate change and gender equality. And basically we have a small team, two co-discussants, and also like we have like two rapporteurs on board. We want to make a quick introductions and then basically talk very quickly about the housekeeping rules, and then we want to open the floor to discussions, because we want to make this session as interactive as possible. So I'll, why don't I go first? So basically, my name is Esra Sari Bertani, and I'm working the climate action team within the executive office of the Secretary General. And in my current role, my current role, I act as the digital media lead in implementing the SG's climate strategy, and I also co-manage our individual action campaign called Act Now, which is a call on individuals to tackle climate change by having sustainable habits. I've been in the UN system, I think around like, now it's been 8 years, focusing on a number of topics, but my favorite by far is climate change, because it's about protecting people and their livelihoods. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Osama. Osama is the co-lead in this discussion. Over to you, Osama.
Thank you so much, Ashra. Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you all. I am Osama Rizvi. I am from Pakistan originally, and I am an energy and economic analyst. And amongst other things, one of the core areas of my research and focus is to highlight the discrepancies between global north and global south in terms of energy and in terms of economics as well. So I focus mostly on ecological unequal exchange. What does that mean in simple terms is that how the inherent systems are unfair, and a certain part of the world is being exploited by another part. So it's my sort of a personal mission to highlight and introduce into the wider debate the problems that the global south face. So yeah, that's a very short introduction from my side, and over to you, Esra.
Thank you so much. And before we, go into the housekeeping rules, I want to have Ashu and Tiloka, our wonderful reporters, to quickly say hi. Since we don't have much time, I want to really dive deeper into the chat. But Ashu and Tiloka, if you want to say quick.
Hi everyone, I'm Tiloka Yapa and I'm from Sri Lanka. I'm the Director of Public Policy at I Volunteer International. We are a volunteer advocacy organization. So I'm excited to be here today, and I look forward to a fruitful discussion.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Aisha Narasimha-Devran, and I'm one of the rapporteurs for today's session. And I am a youth representative for World Yoga Community, which is an NGO dedicated to interfaith dialogue. I also very much, like Tiloka and all of our leads, look forward to having a dynamic discussion with all of you. Thank you very much. And Esther, I pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, both. So if you, having said that, I'd like to share just a few housekeeping notes and rules before we get started. So first of all, we want to make this session really interactive as possible. And we have a few guiding questions to kick off the chat. But of course, we rely on you to participate and share your perspectives and examples from your communities and cities and from your countries. If you'd like to speak, of course, please raise your hand and or type in the chat. So we'll monitor both and give you the floor. We'll be giving you the floor accordingly. And please, 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 I think this is the most important one. Please mute your microphone at all times except the times that you're given the floor. And of course, we'll be talking about like we have a few guiding questions, but once the discussion is over, we'll open the floor again in the last couple of minutes for final words. So if you feel like we have not covered enough, please make sure to share your comments and ideas. So these are a few housekeeping rules. After that, I'd like to say a few, like words about like where, like a global overview where we stand in terms of the climate. This session is basically focusing on climate change and gender equality. And as you all know, climate emergency, we call it climate emergency, is the defining issue of our time. And we definitely need all hands on deck to tackle this problem. And you may have heard our Secretary General has said it recently, we're at a pivotal moment for our planet and the time is running out. So I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the climate facts, but the bottom line is the science is telling us the world is warming, and current warming rate shows us that we're not, basically we're around like 1.1, 1.2 Celsius degree. And of course, rising temperatures mean rising risks, and we're definitely not on track. And to preserve a livable climate, to protect people and their livelihoods, greenhouse gas emissions must be reduced to net zero by 2050. But what we know is even if countries implement their current national plans, global temperature will rise to 2.7 Celsius, which will be catastrophic. What we know from science is it is still not too late to tackle the crisis, but clearly we're running out of time and we need maximum ambition from all fronts to keep global warming to 1.5. You may know G20 is responsible for 80% of the global gas emissions. They must lead by example, as our Secretary General says, but every country must do their part to achieve the Paris goals. A quick note on, last year, what we have seen in 2021, we have seen some progress when it comes to climate, but it was definitely nowhere near enough, and the numbers don't lie to us. We need a 45% cut in global gas emissions to reach carbon neutrality by mid-century, but emissions are set to rise by almost 14% over the decade, which is the opposite direction. And we know that behind these numbers, countless millions of lives are hanging in the balance. And we know that we don't have 10 years to spare. We need urgent action, more ambitious commitments from all nations, cutting emissions, building resilience and finance. And also on the coal side, we need urgency and basically laser focus on ending coal. And also to achieve the Paris, we still remember the $100 billion commitment by developed countries, wealthy nations to deliver on that. And of course, finally, is the need for radical boost for adaptation, because that's the corner of climate justice. So that's a few words from my side in terms of where we stand and what we call for. But maybe over to Osama to share a bit more on his perspective from the global south and maybe tied to the global climate justice. Over to you, Osama.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Asra. That was really insightful. And I would build on what you said. So I'll try to really summarize what's the debate about. So there is a climate crisis, as we call it, because it needs urgent attention. But it has been framed in a way that the humanity as a collective emitted a lot of emissions that tampered with the ecological system. And now we are at a stage there where we all should reduce down our emissions. And of course, there is one other thing that I would like to highlight, which is called techno-determinism, as in certain negative emission technologies. These are called NETs. They will come to the rescue, and we can continue growing, and everything will be okay. However, on the reality, there are two things. First thing, and this relates to the overall debate of climate justice. So two very important points. First point is that reliance on technology alone is dangerous, and it is just another, just another alibi for a certain group of stakeholders to continue doing what they're doing, which is, of course, the exploitation of the overall ecological system. And secondly, in this debate where humanity is portrayed as a whole, we, as students, as analysts, as policymakers, as observers, as people with, keen minds, we should notice that it is not humanity as a whole. There are certain handful of countries, there's certain certain million people, individuals that are responsible for a huge number of carbon emissions. So, and it is very important, as I mentioned in the beginning as well, that we need to redefine the problem and we need to reframe the narrative. According to a report by Oxfam, the richest 1% of the people will, by 2030, they will still have 30% higher carbon emissions as compared to 1990s. And the richest 1% of the people are responsible for 20% of the global emissions. On the other hand, the poorest 50%, which is 3.5 billion people, if they increase their emissions even by 200%, even then they remain in the within the target of achieving 2050 net zero emissions. So this very short excerpt from the report is enough to highlight the wider debate that we need to stir, that we need to talk about, and that we need to highlight when talking about climate justice. So in the session, I will, and Asra as well, we will try to highlight this and many other facts. Of course, we'll be posing some questions, but yeah, the floor will be open for discussion. So that's all from me. Back to you, Asra.
Thank you so much, Usama. That was a great perspective that you shared with the group. So now, we talked a little bit about the global stage. We talked a little bit about on the, the global south, and now we have prepared a few guiding questions for you, and would like to, start discussing. I see we have 35 minutes to go, so maybe we can limit it around 5 minutes on each question, more or less, and then we can leave a couple of minutes at the end so we can, give the floor, open the floor for final remarks. And our first question is, how do you define climate justice? What do you think are the key issues falling under climate justice? Anybody would like to break the ice and start answering?
I had to go back. Can I go back?
Buma, absolutely. Yeah. Please go ahead.
How to climate justice? Climate justice means different the climatic variations, because 4 seasons are interlapping. Sometimes it's overlapping because it happened because of the planet is warming. So we have to take care of this planet by using 3 R's: reduce, recycle, and reuse the materials. Reduce means we have to reduce using the source of the planet. And then recycle means we have to having the habit of recycling the materials and again we have to use. And then reuse means we have to have the habit of reuse the materials, so the resource will increase in our planet, like trees, forest, and then ocean, all the we can protect. And then we have to control the climatic change. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much. That was really helpful. Anybody else who would like to share their thoughts? Please, Sarah.
Thank you. So my perspective, I'll first ground you. I'm in the industrialized North. I'm in the US, and my definition of climate justice is recognizing that those of us in the industrialized North and West have been burning whatever we've wanted for the last 140 years. And that justice, climate justice especially, must take into account technology transfers for resource-constrained settings in the Global South and other areas. And it must include language that recognizes the justice aspect. So it must recognize that it is not charity. Even ODA, that kind of framing needs to be redone. It's restitution, and it's a recognition that we have a shared ecosystem, and that there have been things that we have been allowed to perpetrate with impunity, and that needs to change. That's my opinion.
That was a very good intervention, and I fully agree that we have a shared ecosystem, and this is our responsibility. Just to mention, I see a few like messages in the chat in French. I think, I would be open to, I don't speak French, and I think that's my fault. I don't speak French, but if you speak, if you speak English, if you speak both, actually, we would be grateful if you can make the intervention in English. However, if you don't speak English, then I think we can have an intervention in French as well. But for the sake, to keep the conversation going, I think the preference would be in English, just because some people might not be able to understand. But if, of course, if you don't speak English, happy to hear the intervention in French. So
can I talk?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, please.
Can I talk?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. I will do something. I say thank you for this economic justice. I would like to ask somebody what can I define the definition the climate justice? What can I understand with climate justice?
Charles, si vous voulez parler en français, je vais faire la traduction.
En français. Très bien, voilà. Merci bien. La thématique est vraiment intéressante. Je voudrais qu'on nous définisse, s'il y a un expert en la matière, qu'on nous définisse qu'est-ce qu'on peut entendre aujourd'hui par justice climatique. Est-ce que par justice climatique, on peut voir la disparité que nous avons aujourd'hui sur tous nos pays sous-développés, qui en question plus les effets négatifs du changement climatique par rapport aux pays les plus grands pollueurs. Est-ce qu'on peut entendre cette disparité-là par justice climatique? Donc, par justice climatique, est-ce qu'il faut entendre que les pays développés qui produisent plus, comme on appelle des effets comme on appelle, qui neutralisent, comme on appelle, la couche d'ozone, est-ce que dans la justice climatique, il faut entendre que les plus grands pollueurs doivent venir en aide à ceux qui polluent les moins?
Okay, Charles is asking about the definition of climate justice, whether we're to understand by climate justice that the countries which are in fact the ones producing or creating the most negative effects on the climate are going to help and assist the countries which are most affected, but are actually the least polluting countries. So he wants to know about how people are defining climate justice.
Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you so much, Charles, and thank you so much, Madeline, for saying your name correctly. I mean, that's a really interesting point, and I think we should keep it when the floor is open. And let's just, we'll keep that in mind, and we'll come back to that, when we're done with the questions. So, Asra, please.
Yes, maybe a quick answer before we move on, because I don't want to move on before leaving the question unanswered. In simple terms, also, I'm not a climate justice expert, but in simple terms, and I would be very grateful if, one of the French-speaking, colleagues here can translate into French. So basically, climate justice always begins with the idea that.
So Ezra, if I'm going to translate, can I ask you to say a couple of sentences and then I'll translate, and we do like that?
Okay. That sounds great. And I'm going to keep it very short because the time is short. So climate justice begins with the idea that the impacts of warming climate are not felt equitably among people.
Oui, donc l'idée de la justice climatique part de l'idée que les effets de l'échauffement du climat n'est pas subi, n'est pas vécu de la même manière, d'une manière égale par tout le monde.
Par tout le monde, oui.
And maybe one more sentence, from extreme weather events to rising sea levels, the impacts of climate change often have disproportionate effects on historically marginalized or underserved communities. So that's the a brief definition of climate justice.
Et
And if I can just add, and if I may just add quickly also with an emphasis on said small island developing states.
Thank you. Thank you.
OK, pour ajouter que justement les différents effets climatiques ont un impact disproportionné sur les pays, notamment les pays, les îles, sur ces pays-là qui sont de manière historique déjà marginalisés, déjà exclus et qui subissent déjà des discriminations.
Merci bien, merci.
Guys, thank you so much for that brilliant point, actually. And I think we'll definitely circle back to that. Let's move on to the second question, which is very important in the sense because there's a lot going on in the world, but most of it's only rhetoric. So we would really like to know, what do you think are some actionable steps that we can take to resolve this issue of climate justice? What are some actionable steps that can be taken? Anyone? Any thoughts? Any ideas?
We have two participants who have raised their hands.
Mohammed, we'll go through the...
Oh, bonjour à tout le monde. Bon, moi, je suis francophone comme le précédent intervenant. Je suis le président de l'Action pour la protection des droits de l'enfant au Tchad. Je vais joindre ma voix à la précédente intervention pour comprendre le climat. Comment vous avez fait pour joindre le climat et le genre ensemble? Parce que ici, dans nos pays qui sont en voie de développement, nous avons vraiment des problèmes sur le genre. Mais comment on peut jumeler ces deux phénomènes? Et puis, c'est ça ma question, quoi.
Okay, Mohammed is asking about the connection between climate and gender equality. He says that in his country and in many developing countries, there are serious gender equality issues. So how do we put those two things together and try to address them in a holistic way?
Actually, that's a very good question, Madeline. Thanks so much for translating the content. In fact, this is one of the questions that we're trying to address throughout the session, and I would love to hear from others who are raising their hands, actually, so we can maybe go through them, and if they would like to answer, because we also don't want to hijack the whole conversation, but we want to open the floor to the comments, so we can make this as interactive as possible. And I think maybe we can first, I saw Beth was first,
yes.
Brian third, and then Jama fourth, and then yes. Over to Beth.
Thank you, Ezra. And thank you, everyone, for putting together this dialogue today. It's deeply appreciated. I come from a perspective similar to Sarah in terms of my definition of climate justice as someone based in the US and the global North. The pieces that haven't been said yet that I think are very important, and thank you, Mohammed, I think it was, who went right before me, for bringing up gender and how women and girls are often affected first and worst by climate crises and lots of other, by violence against women, which increases during pandemics and ecological times of ecological trauma. So we see lots of realistic connections there. Also, the piece I haven't heard articulated yet is, admittedly, those of us in the global North who, by virtue of being born here, have been raised, it was part of our worldview to just consume more because that's how we were raised. So for those of us in the global north, I think there's different work that needs to be done. And so I'd add another R to the 3 R's, and that's refuse. So refuse overconsumption, refuse buying new things. I mean, there are plenty of clothes in the world at used clothing stores. I work as a UN representative and I outfit myself from Goodwill. So we don't need to buy new things all the time. The fashion industry is incredibly polluting. So how do we shift our worldviews, right? How do we work in the space between the ears here to do our work? And then also a lot of the damage being done is being done by multinational corporations, many of whom are based in the global north and many of whom are led by men. And so that's another gender aspect there when we bring in finance and financing and the whole thing of the stock market, which is very masculine in the way economics are done. So how do we explore things like Kate Rayworth's donut economics schemes, and how do we do economics differently? That's a key piece, I think, also of the puzzle. And I would just encourage everyone, if you haven't signed up yet for the non-governmental organization forum of the upcoming commission on the status of women, please do that, because I know there will be many more conversations and many more programs, some of which we're involved with the Loreto community, that will be taking this further and discussing it, and especially lifting up the voices of girls globally. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Beth. I think Terry was second. And for those who still have raised their hands, after you speak, if you can, put it down, that would be great. So we wanna, make sure to give the floor to everyone. Terry, you're next.
Yes,
and
thank you.
right after.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. And yes, I really do appreciate the opportunity to be in this forum. Beth went before me and she said much of what I was thinking, but I do want to add, having been born and raised somewhat in a small island developing state in the Caribbean, we and having lived in the global north as well, I do see the disproportionate difference in terms of how we react to climate change and climate justice, or what we even think about when we speak of climate justice. And I would say, how to answer the question of how do you see gender in climate justice, is let's just have women at the table. When we talk about resilience, recovery, let's have women be at the table, not just because women, as Beth pointed out, are always disproportionately negatively impacted by climate change, by anything that's happening. And so the fact that when we are looking at recovery methods of how to deal with the climate justice or climate change issues, we are not hearing enough from women, or not including women in those decision-making processes. I think that that is one place we could start. And I would just also add that I was reading recently about ecosystem-based adaptation, and that is something, that is a concept that's already being tested, I believe, in Africa and in maybe the Pacific Rim to some extent. And it's really looking at how people who have, because climate change is not new. Can we just say that? We've had that concept for some time. In some parts of the world, people adapted to the climate change by moving. So it included migration, and people moved to different places because of the climate change. So maybe we ought to be looking at some of those things and seeing how we can incorporate them currently, so that they are useful to all of us and to the world society, and not just not some parts of the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terry. In fact, that was a very good point. In fact, just wanted to add one more thing, and you probably all know, like Mia Mottley, the Prime Minister of Barbados, rightly put so, like at the COP26. Maybe you heard her speech, and she rightly put it, saying that 2 Celsius warming would be a death sentence for small island nation states. So that's something that I wanted to bring up. And she's one of the very strong women leaders, and of course, like leading by example. Over to Jama. Jama, you're next. And thanks so much, Terry. Jama, we cannot hear you if you're speaking.
Okay. So, how are you all doing?
Can we please mute if you're not given the floor?
Yes.
Okay, it's back to Jama. Jama, could you please unmute?
Hello, everyone. I am Haruna Sinyan from the Gambia and the founder of Jama Children Foundation. I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity as civil society organization to actually participate in this important discussion. Ross, we think
I apologize, but I had to mute because we, as discussed, we have a few housekeeping rules, and it's Jama's turn. So Haruna, we'll be very happy to hear from you in the next couple of minutes. But if you can have Jama speak first, and Jama, you seem muted. So
Ezra, Haruna is from the Jama Foundation.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
good.
okay. Because I see two. Okay.
Yeah.
Apologies. Yeah. Please go ahead. I can ask to unmute. So please go ahead.
I think we still can't hear him.
So Haruna, please unmute yourself because that was my mistake. I thought because I see, like in both two screens, that was my reaction. But if you can unmute yourself and go ahead, we'll be very happy to hear from you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I was just talking and I didn't notice it that I was. You can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Very clear.
Okay. Thanks for this opportunity. I am Haruna Sinyan from Gambia, and I am also the founder of Jama Children Foundation that educate support children to also develop an early adaptation for environmental protection. So what we realize that children also they matter the most, and it is good that we also teach them some of the importance of important engagements or activities that will help them to actually participate into environmental protection. So we are really happy to be part of this because for so long we have seen the contributions that civil society organizations do towards combating climate change. And then, we must work so hard to make sure that all the discriminations against climate justice and the environment is well protected. So we must thank United Nations Department of Global Communication for allowing us to also participate and then contribute. Yes, thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. Maybe over to Brian. Brian is next.
All right, thank you so much. My name is Brian. I'm from Kenya. I'd like to talk about the climate justice and also gender inequality. Where I come from a desert semi-arid place where when we have shortage of rain, most of the men run away, and we are left with women and kids that we have to take them to schools where at least there are some foundations and church organization relief come to give us food in such bad areas. So for me, I'd like to say about the climate justice is a way that we as leaders that we thank you for everyone who took their time and invested to come up with this great forum, that we need to come up with sustainable ways that will help semi-arid areas, especially in Africa and where I come from, at least to try and give these families a future and also help them to see if they're able to live long. Because we need to equip these kids and the 21st century generation with knowledge and education so that they will be able to come up with good and affordable concepts that will help fight the climate disaster that we are going through. Thank you so much for the opportunity of speaking.
Thanks so much, Brian. That was a great intervention. In fact, like when we talk about climate justice, adaptation is a big part of it because, like we need to be able to adapt to a warming world, right? Like the world is already warming, and the countries, especially those on the front line of the climate crisis, need to be equipped well enough to be able to tackle the impacts of the climate crisis, and adaptation is one of them. That's why UN keeps calling for, like 50% of the climate finance needs to be allocated to adaptation and resilience, where like countries like yours, like being affected, but need to be like supported in a way that they can address the impacts. So just for we have 18 minutes left. And we have like 2 more questions on the list, but I see like the discussion is like very lively. Maybe first to Kokila and then Hisa. Then maybe we can move on to the next question. Kokila, it's with you. But in the meantime, if you can, those who have spoken and lower their hands so we won't get confused. Thank you very much. Over to you, Kokila.
Hello, my name is Kokila and I am a student, and I'm also an intern at a trauma prevention organization that works with different areas of war crisis and climate crisis and really goes into heal. But right now I want to speak to you like as a student, and I know these trains of voices and insightful thoughts and started off with this question of, how does gender and climate justice, how do they combine? And I think from what I've learned and from what I've, experienced and seen, I think everything's interconnected. We see that with economy and poverty and climate justice. And I think it's the same with gender equity. And I know right now we've discussed a lot how women are disproportionately affected by climate justice, but something that I also want to bring up is the issue of the female voice in gender politics, which is something that is extremely important. And I just want to, first of all, thank all the women right here who are inspiring me as a student, as a child, to put my voice out there, but also to highlight the importance of this. Because when we look at just politics in general, but especially climate justice politics, is extremely disproportional. I'm so thankful for the women that are in there, but like that are in that field, but we need more of that female voice. And that is something that I just want to quickly highlight and bring up, but thank you.
Thanks so much, Kokila. That was a great intervention. Of course, like we want to see more women out there. I will tease a bit more, like I will bring up an additional argument, but before that, Hisa, over to you. We'd love to hear from you as well.
Hello, everyone. Great to see you. It's a great opportunity to join all of you in this month. Actually, I am a member in Saudi Green Building Forum as a consultant in the United Nations. I will just answer the question regarding the action, how to resolve the climate justice. In Saudi Arabia, now we are having toward to hydrogen economy. And Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is taking a step toward the hydrogen economy, which is, from my point of view, it's the biggest step to face the climate change and climate action, which help a lot to resolve many issues. And also it is a source of income of many countries. That is also source of provide many green jobs for the students, for the women, for the people who don't have job. It will be increase the income of the country, and it will help in the other way to reduce the pollution, and the country will not depend more and more about the oil income. Regarding the companies with who is depending on the oil and the chemicals, it's working together with the hydrogen economy, but the hydrogen economy impact on the countries globally, it's much better noticed about 80% either by the economy way or by the clean energy system. Regarding the gender equality, I am totally agree with others that in the floor should be much or more women who have who take the leads and participate in the job and take the leadership in many areas. And in our country nowadays, many women who is business women who is having the opportunities for the high position, who is speaking up for the and taking the floor in the regarding the climate, and who is taking the voice for the other women. So I am from my point of view, this is the way for resolving the climate justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Isa, for sharing your perspectives. So we have heard a lot of like different opinions, and one of them stood out was, of course, how women have been like disproportionately affected by climate change. And but one thing I want to bring up is it's important, in fact, not to see women as just not like, of course we know that factually that they're being proportionally affected. But at the same time, we don't want to see them as, just the ones affected by the climate crisis, but actually they're the ones taking action, doing something about it. So despite being under-resourced and under-recognized, women are taking climate action at all levels. We know that this is happening in all communities around the world, as farmers, producers, workers, consumers, household managers, like they're taking climate action. And I would love to hear from all of you, and if you can share some examples from your countries, your cities, communities, how women participate and lead in climate action. And of course, like we have leaders like Mia Motley, like, and others, like being super vocal about like climate action, but not just at the prime minister level, but of course there are things going on at the, like a country level, regional level, community level. So if you have any examples, we would love to hear. I see one hand, Muhammad, was that for the previous question or for this question?
Bon, oui, Revenjo. Bon, le thème que nous parlons aujourd'hui, c'est très important concernant le Tchad, parce que nous avons un pays qui est vraiment semi-désertique. Vous parlez de climat, c'est très bien, mais nous voulons comprendre, parce que tout le monde parle l'anglais. Si on peut traduire ça. We need a translation.
I would love to have Madeleine, over to you.
I can, yeah. OK, je vais traduire, mais vraiment très, très brièvement. La personne Beth qui a parlé des États-Unis sur la définition de justice climatique parlait du fait que les filles et les femmes sont toujours les premières qui sont atteintes et que justement, il faut vraiment refuser de consommer autant qu'on consomme dans les pays dits riches, puisque ce sont ces pays-là qui ont le plus d'impact négatif. Et aussi de changer leur façon de voir les choses. Elle a parlé aussi des dégâts causés par les corporations multinationales et que, en fait, ces organisations-là sont très souvent menées par les hommes. Et donc là, on voit aussi un aspect genre et que les gens devraient s'inscrire pour la 66e session de la Commission sur le statut de la femme de l'ONU qui aura lieu dans 2 semaines. C'est sur Internet. Terry a parlé du fait que les réactions aux problèmes du climat sont différentes selon si on se trouve dans les pays du Nord, donc les pays riches, ou dans les pays du Sud, et qu'en fait, il faut absolument que les femmes soient autour des tables autour desquelles on prenne des décisions, qu'il n'y a pas suffisamment de femmes qui sont impliquées dans ces décisions-là. Que ces problèmes climatiques ne sont pas neufs, ne sont pas nouveaux, ça existe depuis assez longtemps, qu'on a vu la migration de gens qui sont partis justement pour éviter ces problèmes-là et qu'on devrait aujourd'hui appliquer les solutions qu'on avait déjà trouvées à ces crises du climat. On a entendu aussi de Haruna que la voix des enfants, l'impact sur les enfants, c'est aussi très important. Et Kakila était en train de dire aussi, elle est étudiante, qu'elle trouve qu'il n'y a pas suffisamment de femmes qui sont impliquées et qui ont l'opportunité de parler et de prendre des décisions. Okay, that was very quick summary, sorry.
Merci beaucoup, c'est vraiment... C'est bref.
Thank you so much, Madeline. Like you're for all your help. You're our designated translator for this session and making it like a multilingual. So we really appreciate it. I think Charles. So sorry. Please go ahead. And then Sarah. After that, you'll go after.
Ok. Merci, Madame, pour la parfaite organisation comment on appelle, de cette plateforme. Je pense que c'est la bienvenue, c'est ce cadre d'échange. Et moi, ce que je voudrais, sur le point sur lequel je voudrais qu'on statue, c'est que ces gens de rencontres-là puissent, in fine, nous aider à faire des partages d'expériences, de bonnes pratiques en ce qui concerne les différentes opportunités, les différentes initiatives que les organisations, surtout de la société civile, essaient d'apporter au niveau surtout de la masse rurale en ce qui concerne les femmes. Chez nous, par exemple, au Bénin, mon organisation ONG Afrique Espérance, dont je suis le président, et nous accompagnons les femmes qui produisent le manioc. Vous savez que chez nous, en Afrique de l'Ouest, on consomme beaucoup le manioc. Et donc, la production, par exemple, garée nécessite beaucoup de consommation en bois. Et qui dit bois, dit coupure des bois, ce qui nous conduit directement, comme on appelle, au désert. Et donc, nous participons à accompagner ces femmes-là à transformer comment on appelle, les butures de manioc et pour produire le biogaz au lieu d'utiliser les bois de chauffe. Et bon, il y a l'Institut franco de développement durable qui nous a accompagnés pour un petit projet. Et donc, c'est comme ça que nous nous accompagnons par nos moyens à faire avancer les activités génératrices de revenus des femmes, et ce qui conduit inévitablement à limiter un peu les effets périodiques du réchauffement climatique. Donc, je voudrais que par ce débat-là, c'est vraiment très important ce que les gens envoient, c'est que les bonnes pratiques d'un pays à un autre soient partagées pour que nous puissions accompagner surtout les femmes rurales, parce que c'est elles qui souffrent le plus de ces effets pervers du changement climatique. Donc, c'est la bonne pratique que nous avons pu accompagner. Nous accompagnons les femmes des zones rurales dans leurs activités génératives de revenus. Nous les informons à ne pas détruire l'environnement, parce qu'en détruisant l'environnement, nous détruisons, comme on appelle, la couche d'ozone qui nous limite, comme on appelle, par rapport aux conséquences des gaz du réchauffement climatique. Donc, nous les accompagnons en transformant les épluchures, tout ce qui a comme déchets organiques, nous les accompagnons en les transformant en biogaz. Donc, c'est cette expérience que nous partageons avec les femmes de nos communes et nous essayons, et par nos mecs moyens, à voir s'il était possible de partager cette expérience à d'autres femmes, pourquoi dans d'autres communautés du Bénin et pourquoi pas ailleurs en Afrique. Merci bien.
Merci, Charles. Charles is talking, he's from Benin in West Africa, and he works with rural women who produce cassava. And he says in the production of cassava, a lot of wood is used, which can lead to desertification. So his organization is really working with rural women to show them alternative, more environmentally friendly ways of doing the work that they've always done. And he's wondering whether other good practices, good promising solutions in other countries and other parts of the world can also be shared, particularly with rural women. Sorry.
Thanks so much, Madeline. I think that was a very good example, actually. And if others on the on the chat, if they can share their links, that would be wonderful. And Sarah, over to you, because I see your hand has been up.
Yeah, that was a totally great. Thank you so much, Charles. I'm not expert in this field, but I do run a nonprofit that works in sub-Saharan East Africa on energy access, specifically targeting women for lighting. And a lot of what we've seen, we thought that it's called Let There Be Light International. We thought we would be impacting health and safety and education, but one really surprising thing has been that when we're getting kerosene or candles out of homes and we're getting Pico lights, this is a social safety net programming. It's not rent to own or pay as you go, which we find very onerous for people living in resource constrained settings. But once we can get these lights into people's homes, and we're primarily targeting women and we're doing some follow-up with them, the empowerment element is really critical. And when we see, the way that the youth have globally taken to the streets, started to really raise their voices. We're also, I work a lot on policy, like larger systems change, but we need all hands on deck, as was said earlier. And we have, when we have the opportunity to talk about both urban and rural women, talk about both systems change as well as empowering women on the ground to understand the benefits, for instance, of solar lighting versus the dirty and dangerous particulate matter that is produced from kerosene and things. We're seeing these women now start to become leaders in their community, talking about climate impact, talking about empowerment, talking about safety. We're seeing reductions in domestic violence because the women are no longer having to ask permission to light a candle at night to nurse a baby. They have their own, they own the production, they own the technology. So that's another example. Charles, I think it's really interesting what you're working on too. And yeah, shine on.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you, everyone. I mean, I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say that I learned a lot about the connection between gender and climate justice. Unfortunately, due to the shortage of time, we'll have to move towards the next question. Otherwise, this discussion can just go on. Very brilliant inputs, interventions. Finally, as we've spoken about the role of women, the impact on women, as a part of climate justice, what do you think, on the top of your head, what are some of the benefits you think a gender-sensitive climate policy, a gender-sensitive climate action would entail? Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Anybody? Any benefits that comes to your mind if we move towards a gender-sensitive climate policy and action?
Yeah, if I
pour
may,
les francophones, sorry Terry, pour les francophones, la question est si on devait mettre en œuvre des politiques qui seront focalisées sur l'égalité de genre, quels seront les bénéfices, notamment dans la lutte contre les effets d'injustice climatique?
Thank you, Madeline. Yeah, Terry, please.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for that great question. Just quickly, something I didn't hear in the other comments, and that is about gender budgeting to ensure that whatever we do going forward, we have a gender budgeting lens being put on all of our plans, all of government, all of state approach. What will we gain? What will be the benefits from gender engaging with ensuring that gender is a part of the solution? We know for a fact that at least 50% of the world are female women. It's more than 50%. So when you consider that by not including or not having a gender approach, you are leaving out at least 50% opportunity of persons to participate, to contribute to development, to engagement, to improvement, to advancement, to empowerment. If you consider that you are leaving 50% behind and not taking advantage of the contributions that 50% plus can make, you are just, I mean, why would anyone do that? You would never sell 50% of your products if you have a store, right? You would want to sell 100%. So why would you not take 50% advantage of 100% of society? That's my comment.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Terry. It was really insightful. Anybody else who can, just share their final comments with us? I think we're just closing nearby the closing time. Please, Esra.
We only have 10 seconds to 10 seconds to go, so unfortunately we won't have enough time to respond, but thank you very much for making this conversation very interactive, and hope to see you soon again. And now I think we will need to go back to the main session. Yeah. And please continue the conversation, and we have enjoyed a lot. I hope you have enjoyed this session as much as we did, and hoping to see you around the climate circles, and looking forward to take this conversation forward. You can now go back to the main session, leave the breakout room and go back to the main session, and I think our colleagues will wrap up the event. So thank you very much, and talk to you soon.